Hey friend, welcome to my little neck of the internet. I am Leigh Nguyen from Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, and I am so glad that you are listening today. And I think that I can say it is officially fall weather where I live. We tend to get a little bit cold, and we were maybe a little hasty in getting our air conditioners out of our windows. So we have an old house and therefore no central air, and it gets humid in the summer, and I'm not a very pleasant person when it's humid, so I was like, we need some air conditioning. Anyway, we took them out because it was cold for about 2 weeks in September, and those let a lot of cool air in. And then we got hit with one last burst of summer, which always happens, and that was, as of the time that this episode is going to be live, it'll be 2 weeks ago, and it was a scorcher, but the evenings were good. Nice and cool for good sleeping weather. But right about now, I mean, you could have been in fall for a while, but that just tends to happen where I live. But I think we're officially here in the fall weather. It doesn't matter what the calendar says. The calendar doesn't know. Well, the weather doesn't know what the calendar says. Now it's fall and now we have to act like fall. It doesn't quite always do that. But I think you are probably like me, breaking out the sweaters and the fall boots, and let's do it. Let's talk about how, though, you can create a cozy atmosphere for your homeschool family right in your home. I so enjoy talking about homemaking, and we're going to talk specifically about homemaking in the fall months in this episode.
Welcome to the Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where you can get out of survival mode, feel confident in your homeschool decisions, and gain peace in your heart and home. I know that when we plant our feet firmly in this season of life and embrace our homeschooling, motherhood, and homemaking, we will thrive. I truly believe that we can do this from a place of peace and joy, all while growing a ton of contentment. And while we're at it, Mama, let's deepen those relationships with our children and love these years we get to pour into them. If you're ready to create beauty, seek simplicity, and live intentionally, homeschool mama, then close up that lesson book, let the kids go play, and let's have an authentic conversation.
I have a very sneaking, very strong suspicion that you, as a homeschool mom, want your kids to look back on these years that they are in your home and you're home educating and you get to spend all this time together. You want them to look back on this time as really fond memories and remember just how they felt being home with you and just feeling that safety that kids so desperately need. And so we're going to talk today about fall and creating memories. And I know that holidays, especially like Christmas, gets a ton of focus, and there's a ton of information about decorating and traditions and all of the things that you feel like you need to do. But we can learn and lean into every season of the year, even if there is no holidays. And that's why I want to encourage you to lean into this fall season. Let's learn together how we can create just a place, a safety zone for your kids, for your family, and even those who come into your home who aren't a part of your family, either extended family, friends, anybody. I can recall, just if I close my eyes, I can even see it. Now, I grew up going to public school, and I'm going to tell you, I wish that I was homeschooled. We knew no such thing about it. But looking back now and looking at who I was, I probably would have fought it a little bit if my parents were to introduce it during the high school years, because I thought that school was so important to be with my friends. But maybe we had started before that. But I look at all of the hang-ups that I had for so many years stem from that time in the public school system. And things that I had to work through. And you might be like shaking your head, nodding your head. I completely agree with you, Leigh. I can see that in my own life. But I, for myself, can recall coming home and just being like, felt like I could breathe at the end of every day. I remember walking in and seeing my mom in the kitchen, probably beginning to prepare dinner, and just feeling like this is a safe place to be. And she created just some really just cozy atmosphere within our home. And I actually just spent the weekend with my parents. I go down at least once a year to visit them, going down. They live south of me. And so I go down and I visit them for just a weekend, just me, because I can do that. My kids are older and I want to continue having a strong relationship with my parents. And it's much different dynamics when it's just me as opposed to my whole family. Neither is better or not. It's just as fun. It's just nice. So anyway, I was just there. My mom has everything decorated for fall, just in a really cozy, subtle way. Pumpkins out on the porch, and it just feels so good. And it just brings back those memories of being in school and coming home, or even just coming home from anywhere and just walking into my home and just being like, this is cozy. I feel safe. The atmosphere was one that encouraged me and just gave me the freedom to be myself. And the fall time, I think, is a really good time for us to begin to learn to slow down a little bit, to maybe become a little more introspective and think through the year. We only have a couple more months of this year. Can you even believe that? My mind is just, it's blown. Where did this year go? It's been a really good year, though. But I know that even if you didn't grow up in a home learning these things, you have that desire to create an atmosphere of coziness that draws your children, but also that draws, like I mentioned earlier, others, guests into your home. I did an entire episode about hospitality and welcoming guests into your home. That is episode 164. If after this one you listen and you want to go back and you want to listen to that one as well, it was a good one, and one that I got a lot of really good feedback on. And I'll link that in the show notes as well. But you want to create an atmosphere of coziness that draws your children and other people. We're going to focus in on your homeschool family, because if you focus in on that, it's going to make others feel cozy as well. And you want to create some memories, just like I have memories. Me in my late 40s, I have memories of my childhood and my teen years and just how I felt at home. And I know that you want your kids to look back and to feel that way as well. To do that, I've got just 10 simple, quick little things that you can do. And nobody's saying you have to do all 10. I want you to pull out what you can do right now. And then that just becomes what you're used to. And maybe next year you can add a couple more on, or maybe you just pick one or two and that's all that you do. It still is going to create some memories and feel cozy in your home. The first one is to have some comfy throw blankets and comfortable pillows around. I don't know about your family, but I also suspect that you guys enjoy curling up in the living room, reading some books, whether it's together. We still do our morning time in the living room unless the weather's nice. Anytime the weather is nice, we go outside to do it. But all winter long and, in the fall here, sometimes the mornings are pretty cool and we don't maybe want to go outside. We will do it in our living room. And so having comfy throw blankets and pillows that kids feel that they can grab and they can use and they can curl up in, and ones that you are okay with them using. So maybe if you have young kids, maybe it's not a good idea to get white throw blankets. Maybe you get some colored ones. That way, if they spill their hot cocoa on it, it's okay. You can wash it out, and if it leaves a stain, no one will notice. But grab just some comfy throw blankets, have them either stacked in a corner or maybe draped over the couch. I actually have on the further end of our couch, it's kind of meets up with our fireplace. I used just like a little peg rack and painted it, hung it up, and we have just our throw blankets just hanging on there. So easy, especially for teen boys, hint, hint, to just grab it, and for my husband too, to just grab a blanket, use it, and then when we are done, they can put it back. Doesn't mean they always do, but it would be easy even for me to come in and just do a quick cleanup, or for me to say, hey, we're about to eat dinner, but let's just do a quick cleanup of the house. You go into the living room, and in no time it's cleaned up. I don't have to worry about them folding it up and putting it somewhere. Maybe you have a trunk or sometime a chest or something in your living room or wherever you're going to be gathering together, and that's where they can put it, but just having a designated place. And it's also fun for kids to have these blankets laying around, and you can build forts. Can recall many a times doing morning time and not seeing any of my children because they had built a giant fort, but I knew they were in there, and I just kind of assumed that they were listening. The other thing I mentioned here in the first thing that I want to talk about was blankets and pillows. What I have done is I have tried to invest maybe a couple more dollars into some good pillow inserts that are feather. And then what I do is I just change out the covers. You can find covers for pretty well cheap. I mean, the quality is going to be whatever, but you don't need to go and spend $50 on a new throw cover pillowcase or even just a pillow to begin with. Go head over to Home Goods. Find some that maybe you like the cover of it. Look for a zipper so that you know that you can get it off. And even if you can't, you can always put a new cover on top of that one. Check Amazon for covers, but I enjoy getting the feather ones because they're really malleable and you can shove them underneath your arm and lean up on your arm. You can put them under your head. You can, create whatever with them. The second thing is lamps. Instead of having a ton of overhead lights, have lamps. I think somewhere they say that you should have 3 light sources in every single room. For my living room, it is a rather large and awkward size room, and we have 5 and no overhead light. I think there used to be, we checked it, there's something there and the wiring has been cut off. We've, took care of that and everything. So won't be any electric fires or anything like that. But at one point, I think there was overhead lighting. But having lamps just adds a little bit of coziness. Every evening as the sun goes down and it starts to get dark, there is one light that I turn on in the living room, and it just adds just a little bit of coziness. I will sometimes find someone in my family sitting there. Maybe it's after dinner, dinner's cleaned up and everything, reading a book. Or maybe nobody really goes in, but it just adds a nice ambiance if there's a little bit of light instead of turning on harsh lights. So my suggestion is to just use lamps once the sun starts setting, and we can kind of start setting our circadian clock into rhythm and knowing that things are going to start winding down, and we're just going to use lamps and not overhead lights. Third thing is candles. I have always enjoyed candles. However, I have made the switch. I was a total Bath & Body Works junkie. I had this is way back in the day, pre-kids. I had the lotions, I had the sprays, I had the shower gels, I had the scrubs, and I had the candles. And every season that came out, I would have to buy the entire set of the new thing. Can you tell that I was single and working and didn't have any people and any responsibilities besides maybe some rent? But I had made the switch as my kids as I started to have kids and just did less and less. And now the candles I use are just faux candles. When you have little kids, you need to be careful and make sure that it's nothing going to be knocked over, and that might be a good option. There's some really good ones there. I have found some on Amazon that are either a candlestick or they are a pillar candle, and they're pretty convincing. But if you're like me and you like just a straight up candle just for the ambiance, maybe look into some beeswax candles. The next thing I want to mention here is books. Have books and books and books stacked around, and there's many opportunities as we begin to slow our days down for kids just to pick up a book and to read. Maybe it's getting more books at the library than you normally would and just leaving them in a basket next to the couch and where the throw blankets and the cozy pillows are, and you'll find kids just pulling the books out and sitting and reading, and also adding in books for yourself, for your family, maybe picking out new books for morning time that have a little bit more focus or are set during the fall season, and will then kind of start to bring up memories for them as they get older and say, oh, I remember reading that book. It was set during the fall season, or a momentous occasion in the book occurred during the fall, and that'll kind of spur some memories within them of also this cozy atmosphere. Number 5 is to create cozy spots. Like I just mentioned, a basket full of books and having blankets and pillows. Maybe it's just a cozy chair in the corner. There were times where we didn't have a ton of furniture, but I could create a cozy corner just with some throw blankets and get some pillows and called this is the reading corner. This is a reading nook. And I remember creating reading nooks in different parts of the house for my kids. So just cozy spots that just feel comfortable and safe, and you can just kind of curl up. And if it's a place that you'd want to curl up in, then probably your family will as well. Then also number 6 is yummy drinks. That's all I have written down. You know what I'm talking about. Let's get the apple cider. Maybe you make it yourself, or maybe you buy it at the store at a local farm and make it all nice and warm. There's so many options of different yummy drinks that you can find recipes for online, but just something that's going to incite just a little bit more of the senses. Maybe it's during morning time and you have the blanket, so they have like the touch and the feel of that. They're listening to you reading to them, and then there is just maybe a warm, cozy drink. Maybe it's a hot cocoa. Who knows? Whatever it is you want to do, some type of pumpkin spice sort of drink, and they're drinking that. That also then involves their taste, and just kind of trying to awaken a lot of the different senses will create that cozy atmosphere. And number 7 has a little bit more to do with another one of the senses, and that is the sense of sight and bringing the outside in. Don't feel like you have to buy a ton of decorations, a ton of faux things. Maybe you do have, I I have had, I don't think I have them anymore, but a lot of just faux little pumpkins. And those were perfect in those seasons. Now I try to bring in maybe some real little ones. And as soon as they start to rot, then go ahead and toss them into the compost and into the garden or something. But bring some things from the outside in. Bring in some branches. Maybe the leaves have colored on those, or maybe they're still a little bit green, or maybe it's some type of bush that has some type of fall berry on it. Bring in leaves, bring in little pumpkins or big pumpkins, and use that as decorations. Now, keep an eye on it. Make sure when you bring things in, I remember telling the story on some episode way ago that I had my youngest, he was known for picking up rocks and acorns and all the things. And I found after one adventure outside that his pockets were full of acorns. And I was like, well, I could use these. And I put them in a glass jar so you could see them. And then I put a candle inside of it. I was like, this is great. Little did I know that there was living things in those acorns. And they came out and I had like little maggot things in the jar. It was so disgusting. I can't believe I'm telling this story, but I'm just going to warn you that, if you go pick real live stuff, I mean, if you get little acorns that maybe are packaged at the store, they probably, well, they're either fake or maybe they've treated them. So you might be okay with that. But if you get them from outside, just be forewarned, you might have limited time until creatures start coming out of them. So keep an eye on things to make sure nothing's going rotten. You don't want to go and put a pumpkin on a piece of furniture that is wood and you love this wood piece of furniture and then come to find out that the bottom starts to rot. Maybe put something underneath it or be checking it periodically. And just a couple more to go. Number 8 is to bake together, or maybe you bake alone. Maybe they're in bed and you bake, or just last night I had some butternut squash and I cut it up and I roasted it, and you sprinkle some salt and some cinnamon and some brown sugar on it after, I think maybe there might be butter involved, I forget, or maybe just some oil, whatever it is. And I just baked that in the oven while I was cleaning up the kitchen. And my family all was like, are you making an apple pie or making a pumpkin pie? I smell something. And it really just kind of drew them out of their rooms and drew them to the kitchen. And we're like, what is this that you're making? And they were a little disappointed when I said it was just roasted butternut squash instead of a pie or some type of baked good. But bake together, enjoy the time in the kitchen, or enjoy the time maybe that it just feels good to have yummy stuff in the air. When it comes to the summer, I don't do a ton of baking. I try to restrict the amount of time that I have the oven on and the heat that it adds to the house. So therefore, the fall is a really good time. Maybe it's brownies, maybe it's cookies. And I know that come here soon, it's going to be baking season, but just enjoy it right now. Enjoy some of the fall stuff and incorporating the pumpkins and the squashes and everything that is available at this time of the year. And speaking of the kitchen, let's talk about number 9, which is switching up your meal plans and pulling away. I tend to pull away from maybe salads and light, cooler things and start switching to soups and to chilies. I have been sharing some recipes in my weekly newsletter that I send out. If you are not on that newsletter, you're missing out on the recipes. So go ahead and check out the link in the show notes so that you can get onto that newsletter and make sure that you get the recipes, some of them that my family really enjoys. But switch to things like soups and chilies. Maybe these are ones that you put in the crock pot. Those are my favorite because you know why? I just put in the crock pot in the morning. It takes more time. Sometimes in the morning, I'm a little bit like, this is taking a long time. I don't want to be spending my time in the kitchen right now. However, the payoff is later in the day. And I have been known to many a days. We really enjoy doing field trips in the fall, putting something in the crock pot, going on a field trip for the day, coming home, and guess what? Dinner is hot and ready for us to consume, and we are hungry and we're tired and we are ready to warm up our insides and fill us up and just get the nutrition that we need in order to start winding down to get into the evening and get a good sleep that night. But consider switching to some soups and to chilies, maybe some homemade breads. Oh, I'm actually getting hungry just talking about this right now. And the last thing I want to mention really is like the cherry on top, which is talking about sundaes and ice cream, which is more of a summer thing, but it's like the final, this is what's going to be the clincher. And that is for your kids to let them see you as the homeschool mom resting and enjoying the cooler weather. Are you slowing down maybe on your walks and looking at the leaves? Are you picking them up and talking about the colors? On a drive going somewhere, do you slow down when you hit that one crest of a hill and you can see all of the hills and the colors? Are you stopping and or at least slowing down? Maybe it's not safe to stop, but just talking about the beauty of the color of the changing of the seasons and the leaves and just really embracing it, not getting down on it. I know that a lot of people really enjoy the summer and it gets to be fall and it can feel like, oh, it's done. No, let's enjoy the season because the summer was great. Right now is great too. And if we don't really rest and enjoy this season, we're going to miss it. And so I want to encourage you to let them see you resting. Let them see you in that cozy spot, reading a book, drinking some warm apple cider. Let them see you enjoying the cooler weather. The days that are nice out, maybe you throw an extra sweatshirt on and you go sit outside in the sun with them and you guys read and do morning time. Let them see that you are enjoying the season too, and the coziness that you feel and the peace that you will actually, it'll just be part of you, just kind of ooze out of you. They'll see that and they'll want to then lean in and embrace that season as well, this fall season. I'm excited about the cozy atmosphere you are going to have. And like I mentioned, if you want to get the recipes, you want to hear from me weekly, a newsletter, it's just kind of fun stuff. I share books and recipes and just all kinds of little tidbits of information. I'd love to be able to pop that into your inbox. Check out the link in the show notes and get onto that list because I want to stay connected with you. And happy fall, my friend. I hope that you really lean in and enjoy this day.
If this podcast has encouraged you, the number one way you can thank me is to leave a written review on Apple Podcasts. I love to hear how this show has impacted you. So if you could hop over and do that, I'd be so grateful. While you're at it, take a screenshot of this episode and share it with your friends to encourage them. You can also find me over on Instagram at Little by Little Homeschool. Until next time, have a beautiful day, Mama.